Thank you very much for inviting me to Estonia. It's my first time here, and I'm honored to be here. I think it's a little bit difficult to speak after John Barry. You can just lose if you heard John Barry, but we can follow you and your way because we have the same definition of integration, and I'm a psychologist too. My view is a little bit psychological and with focusing on Turkish migration. Am I loud enough? Okay. Religious diversity in Germany, the perception and acculturation of Muslims in Germany. We heard a little bit the definition of acculturation. I will deal the... doesn't work here now? Okay.
But it works.
It works there, but not by me. No?
No, somebody will help.
From beginning, but it doesn't work here. Okay. Okay. So, okay. I will deal the following points. Germany is a country of migration and integration. A little bit speak about the measurement of integration. Then the main part will be the results, the empirical results on belonging and acceptance of migrants, and with focusing on Muslim migrants. And the last one will be conclusions and implications. At first, so now it is it is works here, but not there.
It is balanced.
Yeah. No. So we can try again.
As you see, Estonia is technically very advanced. At least we believe that we are.
So?
But we'll figure out what is going on.
No, it's worked there. I try to look there. So, Germany is an integration country. We have in Germany nearly 82 million inhabitants. 10% of them are foreigners. That means people with no German citizenship. But the more important data is that nearly 21% of them have migration background. That means, for example, me, I have German citizenship but have Turkish origin. And my daughter too. She's German but has Turkish origin. So the number 21% is more important. That's nearly 17 million of people have, plus the 1 million Syrian refugees, so a little bit more than 70 million of them have a migration background. But the number 21% is a little bit misleading. Why it is misleading? It is misleading in three ways. The first is, if you know the German history and you think the German division in eastern part of Germany, the part of migrants is very, very less. It depends between 5 or 7%. In the western part, it is more than 20%. That's the one misleading aspect. The second misleading is urban or rural context. In an urban context, as you see, for example, cities like Frankfurt, Köln, Stuttgart, Munich, the variance is between 30 and 40%. With the exception of Berlin, in the eastern part is 5 to 7%. And the third misleading aspect by the number of 21% is, I have no data about this, but I can tell you so, is the division into generations. In the younger one, in the age group 0 to 15, the percentage of migrants is 33, 34%. Migrants, all over migrants get together, are 11 years average, 11 years younger than the host community. So we have three misleading aspects if we just think on 21%. East-West, urban-rural, and old versus young. The trend in Germany goes to, as Vertovec said, to superdiversity. Germany was a diverse society until 1970, but nowadays we have with the exception of Turkish one, we have no smaller groups. We have no large groups. We have even smaller groups. The Turkish one are with nearly 20%, the greatest group, followed by Polish, and then Italian, Romanian, and so on. If you take as a group, as an ethnic, or if you can say ethnic, as a group of origin, the greatest group are people from the former Soviet Union, the so-called Spätaussiedler. Their number are nearly 5 million. But they are not coming from one country. They are coming from Russia, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, and so on. On a nationwide, the people from Turkey are the greatest group, with nearly 3 million with Turkish origin. From them, half of them have German citizenship. So half of them have Turkish passport. The one trend is cultural diversity, super diversity. The other trend is the changing in the religious affiliation. If you see Germany until 1989, we can say the dominant groups are the Christian ones, with nearly a balanced between Protestant and Catholics. After 1989, with the unification of Germany, the number of people with no denomination is nearly 40%. So the number of Christians are 61, 62%. The greatest group are the Muslims, with nearly 5%. In a new study from BAMF, that's the German refugee study group, the number of Muslims vary between 3.8 and 4.3 million. So it's nearly 5% of the population are Muslims. The number of Muslims is in the eastern part of Germany, or the number of people without religious affiliation is eastern part much more higher than in the western. So in the East Germany is less religious, with more than 76% without religious affiliation. The western part has more than 60% with Christian affiliation. Come to the second point. How can we measure integration? We heard a little bit about your project, comparing nations. This focus more in one nation, in Germany. We can compare migrants versus host population, for example, concerning attitudes, values, competencies. The other strategy can be migrants in region 1 versus migrants in region 2, for example, eastern part and western part of Germany, or Hamburg versus Munich, for answering the question, how successful is a specific commune? Yeah? And the other one is, in a longitudinal way, you can compare migrant group X at time 1 versus migrant group X at time 2 to answering the question, how does integration progress over time? Our definition of integration is, I think, nearly fairly by you. It means not in how far the other are like us. It means more, are there equal opportunity, participation in the key areas of social life? That means labor market, residential market, political participation, education. And we have the same assumption that integration is not something concerning just the migrants, because we have disintegration in a so-called homogeneous society too. We have there also groups who are not fully integrated. And so far, integration is not a burden that migrants have to do. It's an idea in how far, as in Barry's words, we will live together, and in which kinds of forms we will live together. That's our definition too. Other conceptions differentiate main dimensions. One is the structural one, as I called labor market, residential market, political participation. The other aspect is the cultural integration. That means in how far the language competency of migrants is equal to the host population, in how far there are value divergences. The social integration means in how far there are friendships, neighborships, and partnerships between migrant and dominant society. And the last one, if you think in a step model, the emotional or psychological integration. That means in how far migrants themselves see as part of this society. You see, some of the dimensions are manageable by politics, and some of them are less manageable. Friendship, partnership is less manageable, but the structural integration, opening the labor market, giving the chance to political participation, is more manageable. Come to the third point, to some of empirical results we did in the SVR, the German Expert Council on Migration and Integration. It's a nationwide telephone interview. It was in the last year. We had a little bit more than 5,000 respondents, 1,300 without a migration background, and a little bit more than 4,000 with a migration background. And it was a multilingual survey. The group of origins, especially you see Spätaussiedler, nearly 1,000 from Turkey, from the EU, and from the rest of the world. At first we asked to the integration climate. How would you estimate the climate of integration in Germany if you give points? 0 means it's very bad, and 100 means it's excellent. And you see, especially with the exception of Turkish people, there is a nationwide good integration climate. If you give a note, if you, we would say it varies between 65 to 70 points. But the Turkish people are more skeptical with 62 points. 50 would be the average. It's a little bit above the average. Then we asked in different areas, community, labor market, social ties, and education, in these different groups, and I will give highlight just one aspect. Especially the area of education is estimated less, and in this group, especially the group of Turkish people, are the most skeptical group. A lot of data in the area of empirical or pedagogical psychology shows that besides Turks, the people from Italian are the loser of in the education area. It's just not Turks, but Turks, Serbian, and Italian people are has the lowest proficiency in German, has the lowest achievement in the education market. We asked in how far ancestry plays a role, and I think this is one of the good messages. Belonging to society, ancestry plays hardly a role. It's especially for people coming from the former Soviet Union, they have the highest values because they define themselves as Germans or has German ancestry. But in the other group, ancestry plays hardly a role for being or belonging to Germany. The same aspect is concerning the Christian religion. In how far, in your opinion, how important it is to be Christian, belonging to society. You see, the people from the former Soviet Union has the highest values, but in general, we cannot say that being Christian is the main aspect, the key criterion for belonging to society. We have differentiated between religious and non-religious groups, and between groups with high and low educational level. One astonishing finding is that especially Muslims with high education and Christians with low education level see that being Christian is a key criterion, but the people with no religious affiliation Christianity doesn't play a role to be a part of society. One other aspect was, in your opinion, how important it is to have German citizenship. Yes, citizenship plays a great role. To be a German, we see approval also später Aussiedler by people with Turkey, nearly 48% by people without migration background, more than 60% they agree that being German, have a German citizenship is a part of belonging. But our most interesting finding was, and this is the bridge to the next to our next session, is the labor market. To have a work and to be integrated in the labor market is the key criterion. I think one of the basic assumptions and basic findings in the migration research is migration works when migrant works. And you can see it here too. If the people are in jobs, then their acceptance is high, and that's true for people without a migration background, that's true for Spätaussiedler, for Turkish people, and so on. We have a great broad approval that being in work is the key criterion. I come to my last point, to religion. We ask in how far religion and being religious is important. And here we have broad approval to both to Islamic religious education and to religious education in general. You see, the left-hand side is religion should be an optional subject at school, and right-hand Islamic religion should be an optional. The broadest approval we have by the Turkish group, but in general, religiosity or being religious or religion in school has a great approval. Who are unwanted, who are rejected, John Barry speak a little bit about them. Not at first the Muslims, the greatest unwanted groups are Roma family. The most prejudices, the most removal are against Roma, and it's also by people without a migration background, especially the people coming from the former Soviet Union show the greatest hesitance to Roma family. I think I will jump some aspects, come to the last point because I have no longer time. To the last point, what are the main discourse lines in the media? We have identified 4 discourse lines. One of them is, and we heard it in the first session at the morning too, is the strategy of exclusion. Muslims described as different and as not belonging to European or German culture, they represent the other. That is one of the discourse types. The other is the fear of Islam and associating Islam with terror, violence, and aggression. Or making dichotomies between Islam and democracy, or human rights, or Islam and enlightenment, and make the gaps greater, arguing that Islam has no enlightenment and couldn't be a part of European culture. And the other one is the so-called counter-discourse, appeal for a constructive dialogue with Islam and statement against discrimination of Muslims, Islam, or see Islam as a part of European or German culture. As the former president of Germany, Wolf, said, Islam ist ein Teil Deutschlands, Islam is a part of Germany, and he had approval, but he had a lot of critics too to the statement. Main aspect of a successful integration is, in our view, too, the guarantee of the equal access and equal chances in every branches of society, especially with regard to the job market, to the residential market, to education, to policy, arts, and sports. The integration shortcomings are seldomly an individual or motivational problem. So insofar that sometimes people think they don't want integration, what can be a reason don't want to be integrated if integration is understood as equal chances to participation. There is no rationality to don't want to be integrated. Yes, Muslims do their homework, especially concerning learning the German language, supporting the school careers of their children. But sometimes there are exaggerated description of Muslims that they don't want support the career of their children. I think one of the main findings is that the educational aspiration of migrants is very, very high. They want high achievement for their children, but sometimes they can't support them. But on the level of motivation, they are motivated that their children should or they are very ambitious. The rate of Muslim people, for example, at the age of 6 to 22, who refuse to take part in sport, education, or swim course, vary between 2 and 7%. But in the medial description, we sometimes think that every Muslim families don't want that their children go to school or take part in the biology or sport education. One exemplary of good integration is especially sports, in areas in which the symbolic capital of parents doesn't play a role, in which your achievement, your own bodily motivation is important, then the integration works very, very good. My last aspect, if we construct Muslim identity, Muslims are, for example, not always and not only migrants. Sometimes we see Muslims are the other one, but we have 2 million German citizens who are Muslims. So the Muslims are not per se the other one. It's sometimes the overlapping of citizenship and religion. And Muslims live not in one, but several diverse communities. There is no homogeneous, closed Muslim community. They have also, like everyone in the society, multiple identities. They share characteristics and problems in everyday life. And the focusing just on faith neglects the impact of the whole identity. People are not just, or are not consisting of just religious identity. Religion can be one part of the identity, but Muslims are even seen as the religious people and not as human with dominant or sometimes less dominant religious identities. And the most or more important are the focusing on forms of invisible glassy hindrances in institutions, which leads sometimes migrants or Muslim migrants to resignation and separation. I will close with the last one. I said that not only motivational problem, in the most cases we have structural one, especially in form of invisible glass hindrances. And it was not intended, but I hope you are all awake. And thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much for your